Far away, beyond the bright stars that Earth's people knew, there was a planet called Nerith. Nerith was once a beautiful world, full of life and peace. Its skies were painted with colors no human eyes had seen before. The forests were tall and glowing, and the oceans sang with quiet songs. This was the home of the Nari, a proud alien race ruled by their queen Talira. Queen Talira was strong and wise. Her people loved her, and she loved them back. But now her world was broken. The dark shadow of war had fallen over Nerith. A cruel group called the Zarek Raiders had come. The Raiders did not care for peace or life. They wanted only power and control. They took what they wanted and destroyed what stood in their way. Among all the losses Queen Talira felt, none was greater than the loss of her daughter, Lyra. The princess was only 10 Nari years old, a child but brave and full of light. When the raiders attacked, they took Lyra away. The queen had searched everywhere, but no one knew where the child had gone. Every night, Queen Talira sat alone in her throne room. The heavy silence of the palace was filled with her quiet tears. Heart ached, but she would not give up. Somewhere in the vast galaxy, her daughter was alive, and she believed help would come. Far from Nerith, in a place called Earth, a man named Captain James Harris was preparing for a mission. James was a soldier, but not an ordinary one. He was part of the United Earth Rescue Corps, a group that helped lost or captured people across the stars. They did not fight for land or money, they fought for hope. James was tall and strong, with eyes that had seen too much war, but still held kindness. When he heard about the missing princess on Nerith, something deep inside him stirred. It was not just duty that called him, it was something more. He felt he had to bring the child home. The Earth Council gave James a small team and a ship called the Star Falcon. The ship was fast and quiet, built to slip through enemy lines without being seen. Their orders were clear. Find the princess. Bring her back safely, and avoid a full battle with the raiders if possible. As the Star Falcon moved through space, James thought about the stories he had heard about the Nari people. They were peaceful, creative, and kind. But the raiders had destroyed so much. The thought made James's fists clench. He was ready to fight if he had to. When the ship reached Nari's system, the first view of the planet was sad. And alive now, its forests were blackened, and its cities were silent ruins. Smoke rose from broken towers, and strange machines patrolled the skies. The raiders controlled almost everything. James and his team landed quietly in a forest far from the main cities. They knew the raiders watched closely, so they had to be careful. The team moved like shadows through the dark trees, their senses sharp for any danger. After hours of searching, they found signs of the princess's small footprints near a broken path. A piece of cloth torn from a child's dress, and strange markings left by the raiders. Each clue gave James hope. That night, under the strange purple stars of Nerith, James sat by a small fire and thought about the queen. He imagined her waiting, hoping, not knowing if her daughter lived or died. It was hard to understand the pain of losing someone you love so deeply. But James knew one thing clearly. He would not let her wait in vain. The next day, the team reached a ruined village where survivors whispered stories of a prison camp deep in the mountains. The camp was hidden inside jagged rocks, guarded by fierce raiders. No one who entered came back. The place was known as the Darkhold. James listened carefully. He knew this was where the princess might be. His heart beat faster. If the stories were true, the rescue would not be easy. But he had to try. We move at dawn, James said to his team. We'd get her out. No one gets left behind. As the sun rose, the cold light of Nerith's morning revealed the difficult path ahead. The team climbed the rocky slopes, each step harder than the last. The air grew colder and thinner. The sound of raider patrols echoed through the valley. Below, James felt a strange mix of fear and determination. He was a soldier trained for battles, but this mission was different. It was personal now. The princess was not just a mission objective, she was a child who needed to come home. As they neared the camp, James's team stopped to watch. The camp was surrounded by tall walls made of metal and stone, with watchtowers manned by raiders. Inside, they could see small figures moving prisoners. James whispered, "There she is." He pointed to a small girl with dark hair, sitting alone near the wall. Her eyes were tired, but they shone with hope. It was Lyra. The princess looked up and saw the strangers. For a moment, fear filled her eyes. Then something inside her changed. She stood up slowly, as if knowing that help had come. James gave a signal, and the team moved quickly but quietly. Their mission had begun, to free the lost princess and bring her back to her mother, the queen who waited with tears and hope. The cold wind bit through Captain James Harris's jacket as he crouched on a rocky ledge above the dark prison camp. Below, the harsh lights from the tall watchtowers flickered over the grim walls of the Darkhold. The air smelled of smoke and fear. Around him, his small team moved quietly, their faces tense but focused. James's eyes never left the small figure sitting near the wall of the princess. Lyra, her dark hair hung loose, tangled and dirty, but her eyes still held a quiet strength. She seemed tired, but she did not look broken. James admired her courage. "We have only one chance," James whispered to his team leader, Sergeant Malik. "We get her out quickly and quietly before the guards notice." Malik nodded, his jaw tight. "Can't wait for reinforcements. The raiders will kill the girl if they find her missing." James took a deep breath. The mission was more dangerous than anything he had faced before. The raiders were known for their cruelty. They did not just imprison people. They used fear and pain to break their spirits. The team moved down the rocky slope toward a narrow entrance hidden behind thick bushes. The path was narrow and twisted, perfect for a secret approach. James's heart pounded. Every step brought them closer to the princess and to danger. Inside the camp, prisoners moved quietly in small groups. Their faces showed exhaustion and fear. Some had wounds. Others looked hollow, as if their hope had left them long ago. James's team kept low and slow. They had trained for years to move like shadows, but nothing had prepared them for this place. The silence was heavy and cold. Suddenly, a raider guard passed nearby. He was tall, with sharp eyes and armor that gleamed even in the dark. James froze, holding his breath as the guard walked past within inches. The moment felt like forever. When the guard moved on, James signaled the team to continue. Every second counted. They reached a small courtyard where Lyra sat alone on the cold stone floor. She looked up, startled, but did not run. Slowly, raised his hand in peace. "I'm here to help you," he said softly. "You're safe now." Lyra's eyes filled with tears, but she stood up. "Mom," she whispered. James nodded. "I'm here to bring you home." Suddenly, alarms blared through the camp. Someone had seen them. Raiders shouted and ran toward the courtyard. James grabbed Lyra's hand. "Run." The team moved fast, firing stun blasts at the chasing guards. James felt the sharp sting of a near miss as a laser shot past just inches from his face. They ran through twisted paths and broken buildings. With raider voices growing louder behind them, Lyra stumbled, but James held her up. "Keep moving," he urged. The escape was a race against time. James's team fought off the raiders while protecting the princess. Each step was dangerous, but they did not stop. Outside the camp, the forest offered some cover. James led the group into the thick trees, where the raiders' sensors could not easily follow, but they were not safe yet. The raiders had sent drones and patrols to hunt the escapees. The night was filled with distant sound shouts, engines, and the sharp whine of flying machines. James's mind raced. They needed a safe place to hide and fast. "Head for the caves," Malik said. "The rebels said they have a safe base there." James nodded. The rebel group was a secret force fighting the raiders in the mountains. They were the only hope. For anyone wanting to survive, the team moved quickly but carefully through the dark forest. Lyra, tired but determined, followed closely. James watched her, feeling a fierce protectiveness grow inside him. Suddenly, a blast exploded nearby. Raider drone had found them. James pushed Lyra to the ground and fired his rifle at the drone. Sparks flew as the machine fell to the ground. The team scrambled to cover. "We need to move now," James shouted. They ran harder, branches whipping against their faces. The caves appeared ahead, dark openings in the rocky cliffside. The team slipped inside, panting and shaken. The air was cool and damp. Inside, faint lights showed signs of life. A tall woman with short hair and sharp eyes stepped forward. "You made it," she said. "We've been waiting for you." James recognized her as Commander Rin, leader of the rebel fighters. "We have medical help and supplies," she said. "And we can protect the princess." James handed Lyra to one of the medics. The girl sat down, exhausted, but her eyes held a flicker of hope. Rin looked at James. "The raiders will be searching hard. You're lucky you got her out." James nodded. "We're not safe yet. We need to plan our next move carefully." The rebels gathered around a small table covered with maps and data. James studied the information. The raiders were stronger and better armed, but the rebels knew the mountains well. "The queen needs to know her daughter is alive," James said. "We must get a message to her." Rin nodded. "We have a hidden relay station. It's risky, but it's the only way." James felt the weight of the mission on his shoulders. The road ahead was dangerous, but he knew they could not stop. That night, as the team rested in the caves, James sat near Lyra. She was asleep, her breathing soft and steady. He felt a strange connection to her, like protecting her was now his mission, not just as a soldier, but as a guardian. Outside, the wind howled through the mountains. The war was far from over, but in that moment, hope burned bright. James whispered, "We'll get you home, princess. I promise." The cold air inside the mountain cave felt heavy, but safe compared to the dangers waiting outside. The soft glow of small lamps lit the faces of the rebels gathered in the shelter. Captain James Harris sat near the entrance, watching the young Princess Lyra as she slowly regained her strength. Her dark eyes, once full of fear, now held a spark of hope. The cave was quiet, except for the soft murmurs of the rebels planning their next move. Commander Rin stood at the center, pointing to a map of Nerith and its rocky mountains. "We can't stay here long," Rin said firmly. "The raiders will send search teams. If they find us, it will be a battle we can't win." James nodded. "We have to move fast. The queen is waiting, and every moment counts." Lyra looked up at James, her voice soft but steady. "Will I see my mother soon?" James smiled gently. "Yes, Lyra. We're going to take you home." The next morning, the small group prepared to leave the caves. The path ahead was dangerous. They had to cross deep forests, cross rivers, and avoid raider patrols at every turn. James checked the gear one last time and looked at his team. "Stay close. Protect the princess at all costs." The journey began with cautious steps into the cold mountain air. Lyra held James's hand tightly, her small fingers clutching his like a lifeline. Despite the hardships, her spirit seemed to grow stronger with every step. The forest was thick and dark. Strange noises echoed through the trees, birds calling, leaves rustling, and sometimes the distant roar of raider machines as they moved deeper into the woods. Every shadow could hide danger. Suddenly, a twig snapped nearby. "Stop," James whispered, signaling the team to freeze. From behind a large tree, a young rebel emerged. His face was dirt-streaked, but his eyes were bright and friendly. "You're almost at the river," he said quietly. "The path ahead is clear, but raider patrols are close behind." James nodded. "Thank you. We'll move quickly." The group moved on, stepping carefully over roots and rocks. Lyra looked tired but refused to slow down. After hours of walking, they reached the river, a wide, fast-flowing stream that marked the border between the forest and open land. The crossing was risky. The cold water was deep, and the current strong. James went first, carrying a small bag with supplies. He turned to help Lyra, who stood nervously at the edge. "It's okay," James said softly. "I'm right here." With a deep breath, Lyra stepped into the water. The cold shocked her, but James's steady grip kept her safe. One by one, the team crossed the river, struggling against the current. On the other side, they paused to catch their breath. The open land stretched ahead, with tall grass waving in the wind. Suddenly, a sharp sound cut through the air, a raider alarm. "They found us," Malik said, drawing his weapon. "You have to move fast." James's heart raced. "The raiders. We're closing in." The group broke into a run, pushing through the tall grass. Lyra stumbled, but James caught her just in time. "We're almost there," James urged, pointing to a small hill ahead. "There's a rebel outpost at the top." The raiders' vehicles roared behind them, metal machines pounding the earth. James fired his rifle at a chasing drone, sparks flying as it exploded. The team reached the hill and scrambled up the rocky slope. At the top, they found a small base hidden among the rocks. Rebel fighters waiting with weapons ready. "Get inside," a rebel shouted. They rushed through a hidden door into the safety of the outpost. The heavy door closed behind them just as raider vehicles arrived. Inside, the team caught their breath. Lyra leaned against a wall, exhausted but safe for now. Commander Rin appeared again. "We can send a message to the Queen from here," she said, "but the raiders will be watching. We have little time." Shh. James looked at Lyra, who was resting. "But alert. I'm ready," Lyra said quietly. Together, they prepared the communication device. The small screen flickered to life, and James began speaking. "To Queen Lyra," he said, "your daughter is alive and safe. We are bringing her home. Help is on the way." As the message was sent, the outpost's alarms blared. Raiders had found their location. Prepare to defend. Outside, the sound of engines and heavy footsteps grew louder. The battle was fierce but short. The rebels fought with courage, protecting the princess and the message. When the raiders finally retreated, the group was battered but unbroken. James looked at Lyra, who smiled weakly. "We did it." The princess's strength was growing. The hardest part was still ahead, returning to the queen and the safety of Nerith. But for now, they had taken the first step. The escape was real, and the promise of reunion burned bright. The sun was setting behind the jagged mountains of Nerith as Captain James Harris and his small team prepared to move again. The rebel outpost had been attacked by the raiders, but they had fought bravely and survived. Now, the hardest part was still ahead, returning to the Queen's hidden sanctuary with Princess Lyra. James looked at Lyra, who sat quietly, her eyes filled with a mixture of hope and tiredness. Despite everything, she seemed stronger than before. The time to reunite. Her with her mother was near. James could feel it in his bones. Commander Rin stood beside him, her face serious but determined. "The Queen's sanctuary is well hidden," she said. "Only a few know the way. It's a dangerous path, but it's the safest route to avoid raider patrols." James nodded. "We don't have a choice. We need to get Lyra home." The team packed their gear and set off, moving carefully through dense forests and rocky hills. The air was cool and smelled of pine and earth. Birds chirped softly, a quiet reminder of peace that once was Dot. As they traveled, James thought about Queen Lyra. The stories he had heard spoke of a leader both strong and kind. She had fought to protect her people, but losing her daughter had left a deep wound. James knew that reuniting mother and daughter could bring hope not only to the Queen but to all the Nari. The path was difficult. The group faced steep cliffs, tangled roots, and sudden rainstorms. Lyra leaned on James often, her steps growing slower, but her spirit never fading. One evening, as the sun dipped low, they reached a small village of Nari rebels. The villagers greeted them warmly, offering food and shelter. A moment, Lyra smiled, the first real smile James had seen from her since the rescue. The village elder, a wise Nari woman named Sela, approached James. Her eyes were kind but filled with sadness. "The Queen waits for her daughter," she said softly. "But the raiders grow stronger. Time is short." James promised, "We will get Lyra home. We will help her mother." After a brief rest, the group left the village, following a secret trail that twisted through the mountains. The air grew colder, and snow began to fall lightly. At last, after days of travel, they reached the edge of a hidden valley. The valley was surrounded by tall cliffs and dense forests. a beautiful palace made of white stone that shimmered under the moonlight. James felt a lump in his throat. The Queen's sanctuary was reland close as they entered the valley. A group of Nari warriors stepped forward, their faces serious but hopeful. They were the Queen's guards, sworn to protect their ruler and her lost daughter. James raised his hand in peace. "I bring your princess home," he said. Word spread quickly through the sanctuary. Queen Talira, dressed in a flowing blue robe, appeared at the palace entrance. Her eyes were wide with disbelief and hope. When Lyra saw her, "Mother," she ran forward without hesitation. The Queen caught her daughter in a tight embrace, tears streaming down her face. "Mom, back," Lyra whispered. The Queen held her daughter close, trembling. "My child, you are safe. You have come home." James watched the reunion with a full heart. For all the battles and danger, this moment was worth every risk. Later in the palace hall, the Queen spoke with James and her council. "We owe you a great debt," she said. "Your bravery has given us hope." James shook his head. "I only did what was right." The Queen smiled. "Your people are strong and kind. We must stand together." That night, the sanctuary was filled with light and music. The Nari celebrated the return of their princess and the hope for a new future. But James knew the war was not over. Raiders would not give up easily. Still, in the warmth of the Queen's home, surrounded by new friends and allies, James felt a quiet confidence. Together, they could face whatever came next. The journey had been long and hard, but the promise of peace was now closer than ever. And for Lyra, the nightmare was over. She was home. The morning light spread slowly across the valley where Queen Talira's sanctuary stood. The air was fresh and cool, filled with the scent of blooming flowers and the quiet sounds of the Nari people beginning their day. It was a new beginning. Just for the princess, but for all of Nari, Captain James Harris stood outside the palace, watching the sun rise behind the mountains. He had spent many days on this planet, fighting alongside rebels, crossing forests and rivers, and facing dangers he had never imagined. But none of it compared to the moment he had seen when Lyra, the lost princess, had finally returned to her mother. Now, as the world seemed to hold its breath, James felt a deep sense of peace. Yet he knew that peace was fragile. Inside the palace, Queen Talira sat with her daughter, holding her close. For the first time in many moons, the Queen smiled without sadness. Her daughter was safe. Her people had hope, but the Queen's eyes showed the weight of a leader. The war with the raiders was not finished. The enemy was strong, and their hunger for power remained. "We must prepare, Queen," Talira told James and her council. "People need protection. We must stand united," James agreed. "The Earth's rescue corps will help. We'll bring more support. But first, we need to build trust and strength here." The Queen nodded. "Together, we will fight for peace." Over the next weeks, James worked closely with the Nari warriors and the rebels. He shared Earth's technology and tactics, teaching the fighters how to defend their homes. The Nari people learned quickly. Their courage was strong, and their will to protect their world even stronger. Lyra grew stronger too. Each day, she spent time learning about her people's history and culture. She practiced walking through the palace gardens, her laughter returning like the first spring flowers. But she never forgot the danger outside. One evening, James found Lyra standing by a window, looking at the distant mountains where the raiders still roamed. "Are you afraid?" James asked gently. Lyra shook her head. "No, I want to help protect our people. I want to be brave like you." James smiled. "You are brave already. But bravery is also knowing when to ask for help." Lyra nodded thoughtfully. Then, one day a warning came. Scouts reported raider ships approaching near its atmosphere. The enemy was coming for the sanctuary. The Queen called her council together. The air was tense, filled with the sound of quiet prayers and determined voices. "We will not run," Telerod declared. "We will defend our home."
Ow.
James prepared the Earth Rescue Corps and the Nari warriors. Together, they set traps, prepared defenses, and ready weapons. The battle for Nerith was about to begin. The raiders arrived like a storm, their ships darkening the sky. Loud blasts shook the earth, and the sound of battle filled the air. James fought alongside the Nari, leading charges and protecting the Queen's sanctuary. The Nari warriors, inspired by the return of their princess and the courage of their allies, fought fiercely. Lyra stayed safe inside the palace, but prayed for the fighters outside. The battle raged for hours, with both sides suffering losses, but the strength of Unity humans and Nari standing together began to turn the tide. Finally, the raiders began to retreat. Their ships fled into the stars, defeated but not destroyed. The valley was quiet again, filled with the cheers of the victorious Queen. Telera thanked James and his team. "You have saved my people," she said, "and given us a chance for a new future." James smiled, tired but happy. "This is only the beginning. Together, we will build a better world." Stepped forward, her voice clear and strong. "I will help lead my people. I will protect our home." The Queen smiled proudly. "My daughter, my hope." As the sun set over the valley, James looked at the bright stars above. He thought of Earth, of home, but also of this new world where friendship had grown from war. A new dawn was rising for Neretha. Dawn of peace, courage, and hope. And as long as brave hearts stood together, no darkness could ever win.